Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're getting right into it because today we are hunting for that absolute sweet spot, the Goldilocks zone of property management. We're talking all about setting competitive rent in 2026. And right off the bat, we're gonna bust a major myth. Your rent should absolutely not just be based on your personal expenses or your mortgage payment. The market frankly doesn't care about your expenses. It cares about value. To put exactly why this matters into perspective, let's look at a pretty shocking number. $3,000 to $4,000. According to recent data from Northpoint, that is exactly what bad seasonal timing and mispricing can cost a landlord in just a single lease cycle. That's literally thousands of dollars evaporating, left on the table simply because of guesswork. But don't worry, we're gonna fix that today. Okay, so here's our roadmap for the Explainer. We'll start by looking at the true cost of mispriced rent, then move into analyzing the local market, the impact of seasonal demand, adding value and psychology, and finally, balancing rent increases with tenant retention. Let's jump right into part one, the cost of mispriced rent. You know, tenant turnover is the #1 operational challenge for 42% of landlords today. And mispricing, it is the absolute fastest way to trigger it. It's really this massive double-edged sword. Avail's data shows that if you price too high, you're staring down the barrel of 30 to 60 days of vacancy. Think about it. Just 1 month empty on a $1,500 unit costs you exactly $1,500. Plus, you often end up attracting desperate renters. On the flip side, if you price too low, you're missing out on recurring income every single month. And even crazier, high-quality tenants might actually assume the property has hidden flaws. They look at the listing and think, wait, why is this so cheap? What's wrong with it? All right, moving on to section 2, analyzing the local market. So how do we actually solve this? Well, the days of just throwing a number at the wall and seeing what sticks are totally over. Today, a solid 74% of owners rely strictly on market data to set their rates. To find that perfect price, you've got to run a comparative market analysis, or CMA. It's a straightforward 3-step process. First, collect your data on comparable properties, your comps. Second, analyze the variables. And don't just look at bedroom counts. You have to look at square footage, overall condition, amenities, the whole shebang. Finally, evaluate local demand and vacancy trends. This right here is the exact difference between a sophisticated landlord who relies on data and an inattentive one who just guesses. And NextBrick data gives us a brilliant look at the payoff for doing a CMA correctly. Properties priced within just 5% of their area's median rent experience 20% shorter vacancy periods than overpriced listings. Hitting that data-backed sweet spot literally gets tenants into your property a fifth faster. That's a real game changer. Let's transition to section 3, the impact of seasonal demand. Now, having the right base price is really only half the battle. Because even if your math is perfect, your leverage as a landlord swings wildly depending on the calendar. Northpoint has this fascinating seasonal demand curve. Peak demand is May through August, right? Families are moving, new grads are getting jobs. Moderate demand hits in the spring and early fall. But look at the low demand period, November through February. A perfectly priced unit that you could fill in just 10 days in June might drag out for 30 to 40 days in December. The calendar absolutely dictates your leverage. So how do you use this to your advantage? You have to engineer your releases to end in the summer. Let's say you have a tenant signing in April. Don't offer a standard 12-month lease, offer a 14-month lease so it expires in June. If you've got a lease ending in December, offer a 6-month renewal to push that next vacancy right into the peak summer months. Pre-market 45 to 60 days early. Adjust your pricing seasonally and let the peak season do the heavy lifting for you. Which brings us to section 4, adding value and psychology. We've talked a lot about math and calendars, but we can't ignore the human element. Pricing is incredibly dependent on tenant perception. There's this great Leonardo da Vinci quote highlighted by pricing psychology expert Nick Kalenda. All our knowledge has its origin in our perceptions. Kalenda points out that price itself is just a perception. A $2,000 rent feels outrageous for a dingy, outdated unit, but feels like an absolute steal for a place that feels premium. Strategic landlords are actively managing this perception to their advantage. And you can actively shift how a tenant perceives your property through really specific physical upgrades. NextBrick's data shows that value-add upgrades like modernizing kitchens and baths, swapping out old carpet for vinyl flooring, putting in energy-efficient smart thermostats, or even just boosting the curb appeal, they don't just make the place look pretty. These modern amenities can actually yield an 8 to 12% premium in rent. You elevate the perceived value, which directly elevates your rent ceiling. On the flip side, let's look at what happens when you completely ignore market value. There is a fascinating paper from the Federal Reserve that identifies what they call the inattentive landlord. Due to a behavioral quirk called reference dependence, incumbent landlords often anchor their rent prices to their own outdated personal tax costs. They completely ignore what the market can actually support. So they underprice their units, leaving huge amounts of money on the table, which, by the way, corporate buyers will happily swoop in and capitalize on.
The Fed also discovered this crazy behavioral quirk. Rent changes are incredibly sticky. When landlords finally do get around to raising the rent, they lazily bunch their increases into arbitrary multiples of $50 or $100. They aren't trying to hit the exact market rate, they're just picking a round number because it feels easy. Seriously, don't fall into the $50 trap. Trust the data to find the exact right number.
Okay, on to our final section, Part 5, Balancing Increases and Retention.
The ultimate question here is, how do we actually implement these data-driven rent increases without driving away our absolute best tenants? Well, we have to acknowledge the reality of the 2026 market. According to a Hemlane survey, 55% of rental owners cite rising expenses as their single biggest concern for the next 12 to 24 months. We're talking climbing insurance premiums, higher maintenance labor costs. So rent increases aren't about being greedy, they're often a basic survival requirement just to maintain your margins. Fortunately, Avail provides a fantastic playbook for doing this the right way. Keep your increases modest, ideally in that 5 to 8% range. Give your tenants plenty of heads up, at least 60 days notice. Anchor the increase to real visible value, like those property upgrades we just talked about, or simply have a transparent conversation about inflation costs. Prioritize long-term consistency. A long-term mindset built on open communication is going to beat short-term price gouging every single time.
Oh, and here is an amazing operational tip from Hemlane to help your cash flow, regardless of the rent price itself. Whether rent is due on the 1st or the 6th, autopay collects at over 99.5%. The data shows that getting a tenant to switch to autopay is worth roughly 9 times more than obsessing over the actual due date. Just make it incredibly easy for them to pay you. So, we've covered CMA data, seasonal leverage, pricing psychology, and tenant retention. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative question to think about for your own portfolio. Are you pricing for your expenses, or are you pricing for the market? I highly encourage you to take these data-driven strategies for setting competitive rent and start applying them today. Thanks so much for joining me, and happy leasing.